what strategies and platforms do you use to hire employees?
Indeed is a great place to start. And in most metropolitan or fairly metropolitan areas, you're going to have no trouble finding good quality people on Indeed. Of course, you're going to have to go through a lot of filters to find those people, which I believe we may talk about a little bit or not. I'll kind of chat about that for a minute, but you have to have some filters in place. Did they submit a resume? Number one, right? Another one would be using the chat feature and saying, I want to ask you some preliminary questions on chat. Do you have a clean driving record? Do you have a reliable transportation? Whatever your questions are, and then you can start filtering people out.
And knowing what you can legally ask.
So consult with your HR professional. But once you find your really good people, here's the real tricky part. The next thing that I would recommend is referrals, right? Not first, because most people are like, well, I just got referred somebody.
And that person referring is this person. My friend's looking for a job. He hasn't worked in like 6 months. I heard you guys are hiring.
Yes.
Hey, he doesn't have a job. I don't want to say you don't want that person, because there is people out there, maybe their circumstances different.
Sure.
But I would say 97% of the time, you don't want that person.
Well, exactly. And so what here's what I would tell anyone, and I told her today. The people that you don't want to refer are the ones who are.
Yeah.
So it's always the guy. It's like, hey, I don't have a driver's license,
Or I'm showing up late.
I don't come in on time. I make every excuse under the sun.
My grandmother died 3 times.
But when I was hanging out last night, when I didn't show up for work, I was out playing Call of Duty with my friends, and they don't work
Also
either.
don't have jobs.
And I hear you're giving me $50 every time I bring in somebody for a job, interview. So I brought in all these other losers that.
Well, you can't say losers. Come on.
Okay.
Come on, man.
I brought in all of these other individuals. That also like Call of Duty and calling out without notice.
Yeah, 0 notice.
And would you be willing to hire them? So you're fishing in that pool, right? Well, if you find really good people, those really good people, as you know from experience, those people have a hard time referring people, right? You have to really dig it out of them to get that, like, hey, please refer people.
I had this conversation this morning with one of our managers here at work. He referred somebody similar, like you're saying. He's like, well, my brother-in-law, I don't really know him very well, but I know he doesn't work and he doesn't have a job, so I got to refer him over here. So that's the call that I got, and I was like, okay,
Did you say thank you?
No, I said, okay, so who you refer definitely, tells us who you want, because what kind of person you are.
Yep.
So then I came back and I was out for the day. I said, well, how did that referral go? And HR was like, it went terribly. So then I got back on the phone this morning and he's like, well, you going to hire that guy? I was like, absolutely not. I was like, the guy was leaning back in his chair with a hand over his head, blah, 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 didn't answer questions. And that's when I was like, that's the same example. Like you're saying, the people that they guard that referral. Like my question to him was, would you let that person watch your children? Well, absolutely not. Then you probably shouldn't refer them.
Probably not.
That's as a manager, that's where I look at it. If I'm okay with them watching my children, and I'm not saying like for a week at a time, but I'm talking like, I'm going to go to the movies. Can you watch my kid?
Yeah.
If you can't say yes to that, then they're probably not referable.
So, the strategy, just to kind of button it up, right, is you can use Indeed. Indeed is great for most big areas and medium-sized areas, but you've got to do your due diligence. You have to have a process in place. I know people are going to have questions about what is your process. We'll probably do that on a live, because
that'll be a live, because it's a long.
We're getting into a lot of detail at that point. But once you find some good people, then it's like, okay, I know these people are good. Then you can create a referral reward program that is enticing enough for those good people to refer people over. And now you start to build your team with like-minded, responsible people.
Yeah, then you don't have to deal with as many call-outs and things like that. If a call-out is actually an emergency.
So other things that we've been getting for sure, careers pages, like you could go on to city websites, you could go on to college websites.
Smaller communities, though, like we've been dealing with some of that lately.
Yeah. Craigslist
has actually been an okay recruiting tool. Some of their chamber, if you're looking at like small communities, like out here in California, Arizona, we have like what I would call like mountain communities. So like not very much there, but we do have clinics there and they're medical facilities. And we've been dealing with some of that, like in the smaller areas where Chamber of Commerce website, posting ads there, Craigslist. Not a lot for Indeed. I think people just don't look because maybe they feel like looking for that. If they're looking for Indeed, they have to drive somewhere.
Yeah.
So they just don't kind of hit it. They haven't had much luck there.
And that could be the case. I mean, that they would have to drive into
the nearest big city
like Phoenix or something.
And they don't
like
want to
that.
do it.
And they don't want to.